Good afternoon, sportsmen and sportswomen of Tennessee, and welcome to the Committee Day for the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission. We appreciate the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture for hosting us at this facility. Please join us for the pledge and invocation with Commissioner Ford Little.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's bow together. Our dear Heavenly Father, we praise and glorify you as the creator of all things. We know that all things are possible through you if we only ask. We thank you for this beautiful day you blessed us with. We thank you for allowing us to gather at this fine university. We thank you for how it educates students who go out into the world and serve others. We thank you for all the good things that this university does for our great state. We ask a special blessing today on the men and women serving in our armed forces around the world. Give them courage, protect them from harm. We likewise thank you for the men and women serving in the agency. Help them to continue to be good stewards, help them to make wise decisions, help them be protected from any type of harm that they may encounter. Today, as we gather as a commission and as a staff, help us to make wise decisions that will serve the natural resources, the many animals and fish that we oversee, and the other abundant resources that we have. Most importantly, we thank you for the gift of your Son and what it means for each one of us. It's in his name we pray. Amen. Amen.
We've got several visitors here today. I'd like to start with Keith Carver. He's the Chancellor of the UT School of Agriculture, so welcome, Keith. And then we also have a Dr. Scott Schlarbaum with the UT Tree Improvement who's going to speak with us today. We've got Fred and Carolyn Walker here to talk about flintlocks. Timothy Bryant, flintlock, Travis Rogers, and Jordan Brooks with the Tennessee Bear Hunters. Laura and Clarence Dyes with the Tennessee Fur Trappers Association. Mike Butler with the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Bill Staley with Cora. Sean Reese with USFS, and Justin Scholzel with USFS. And then for OHV, we've got Scott and Angie Damel, Jeff Cotner. We have Manuela Thompson, Fred Moody, who's Commissioner Moody's husband. And welcome to the meeting. Thank you. Ms. Giuliani, please call the roll.
Monty Ballou. Brad Box.
Here.
Stan Butt.
Here.
Greg Davenport.
Here.
Chris Devaney.
Here.
Steve Johnson.
Here.
Steve Jones.
Here.
Ford Little. John McCarty.
Here.
Rosemary McElhaney. Rhonda Moody. Here. Chip Saltzman.
Here.
Haynes Torbett.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Giuliani. Director Maxedon, do you have a report you'd like to present?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I do. And good afternoon, members of the commission and members of the public. Thank everybody for being here today. We're excited to be at the University of Tennessee. It's a place that has shaped many of our careers in wildlife conservation, including my own. A special thank you to Dr. Carver and all the UT leadership for hosting us and all the things that you've done. Thank you to your staff. They've been very gracious. Thank you for their hospitality. Your support reflects a strong partnership that we share in conservation and also in education. As a UT graduate, I was curious how many of our staff share that connection. So I had our personnel director actually look into this. We have at least 200 employees. Nearly 30% of TWRE's workforce are UT graduates, many from the Herbert College of Ag and the School of Natural Resources here. The quality of education here strengthens our missions and the work that our team does every day for Tennessee's wildlife. So we're grateful for the education that you all pour into these students. UT plays a vital role in that workforce development and continues to do that, especially through our summer internship program. You all house that program here. We're grateful for that. Chris Graves actually helps with that program to be able to get these students across different colleges across the state. There's around 30 wildlife and fishery students that enter the field each year, And they do this by gaining hands-on experience that benefits their careers and ultimately directly supports us as a wildlife agency. Our partnership with UT is a long-standing, impactful partnership. Since April 2009, we ran a few numbers. Dr. Carver, you'll be surprised at these, I think. Since 2009, the UT system has received $14.2 million through 160 grants. That's roughly about $835,000 a year that we've partnered with UT on. These grants support cutting-edge wildlife research, as well as 4-H and outdoor recreation programs that bring more Tennesseans into the outdoors. Many of these research efforts inform season-setting recommendations that guide things like today's agenda. I want to take a moment to thank the TWRA staff. Thank you to the staff members that are here, those that are listening online. Their hard work, preparation, and attention to detail over the past several months have ensured that the proposals that you all hear today are thoughtful, they're science-based, and they're clearly communicated. These decisions require a balance, honoring public input while holding our commitment to be responsible and using science-based wildlife management. Thank you to the public. We're very grateful for those that submitted comments, those that done that online or whether that's been in person, and then really for those that took time to drive here and be a part of this today. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to drive in today to make your comments known. Your engagement strengthens this process and reflects how deeply Tennesseans care about wildlife and outdoor traditions. One key item today is turkey season dates. That's usually always a hot topic within the public and the commission. Spring turkey season opened last weekend, and you're going to hear from our staff here in just a minute about a record harvest for the opening day. You see some of the slides or pictures that are on there. It was a tremendous opener for the youth. We're very excited about youth. You all know that we've been working hard on R3, retention, recruitment, and reactivation of hunters. There's nothing better than seeing smiles on faces like this from the youth as they get to participate in these outdoor traditions. The decisions the commission makes today will shape opportunities for them for years to come. So thank you for the time that you've invested into this, reviewing public comments, studying proposals, and really asking thoughtful questions. I thank you for the way that you challenge our staff. You ask us a lot of detail to really learn more about this process and to be ready for this meeting. So thank you, commissioners, for that. I do have a legislative update. As you all know, over the past year, we've worked extremely hard, staff, commissioners, and partners, to secure dedicated, sustainable funding that closes the long-standing structural gap created by unfunded mandates and rising costs. This effort has been a major focus for us because it speaks directly to our ability to deliver the services that Tennesseans rely on. I want to begin with something positive. The governor included a $10 million one-time appropriation for our agency in his budget, and that item has now passed through the Senate and the House Finance Ways and Means Committee. So now what that means, it's headed to the floor for a vote. We appreciate the governor, the General Assembly, and those who recognized our needs and made sure that support was included. It will provide meaningful short-term, I say, to help, and it's absolutely worth acknowledging and thanking them for. So thank you to all those that participated in getting that funding pushed forward for us. Now to the more difficult part. This is going to be news to some of the commissioners because it was hot off the press as of yesterday. The dedicated recurring funding bill, which we've been calling the TVA bill, the one that so many of you invested time, energy, and credibility in, was taken off notice in the House, and it will not be heard this year. In the Senate, it remains on the Finance Ways and Means calendar for Tuesday, but technically it is still moving as of now. But given the House action, we have to be realistic about its chances in this session. This is disappointing. It's obviously not going to pass. There's no way around that. We need recurring funding. This commission knows that well. I think the members of the public, as much as it's been out there in the media, understand that as well. We've made the case openly, we've been transparently, and we've repeatedly said this. I especially want to thank everyone. I want to start with our bill sponsors. We had a sponsor, obviously, in the House and the Senate. Thank you to Senator Stevens and Representative Marsh for actually carrying this bill and the work that they put into it. And thanks for all the members that signed on. We had an overwhelming, I think, majority of the membership that actually signed on to this bill to try to support it. I want to thank the folks inside the agency. Our staff have worked hard, especially our executive leadership team, all of our leadership throughout the agency, to get a lot of things ready that we put forth to the members. I want to thank the commissioners. The commissioners devoted a lot of time. Many spent days down at the General Assembly going door to door and attending meetings with us. And then we have a great partner network. One of those is in the room today, the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. There's been other partners. Thank you for all the support that you've done to be able to help us through this process. There's many that I haven't named, but we're grateful for all those that work tirelessly with the members of the General Assembly. You've been professional, I'll say persistent, and united, and I'm very thankful for that. Those efforts mattered, they were noticed, and they will carry forward into this next year. We're not waiting on a plan at the agency. We've already begun working with the commission on next steps. It includes difficult decisions, some that a lot of our staff are not going to want to hear. That's going to be cuts. There's going to be services that are going to be cut to members of the public, the hunting public. There's going to be positions that will be cut within the agency. This is going to be necessary without reoccurring funding solution. We'll keep the staff and all of our partners informed every step of the way. I want to close with this. I want to close by saying this part of the update, I want to return to what I think is important for the agency. We are resilient, and we're going to proceed. We're going to move forward. We've been here before. Last year, we pulled the license fee increase together at the request of the members who wanted to help us pursue dedicated funding instead. We took them at their word. We heard many members say, we're going to help you get dedicated funding. And I believe many still want to help. The door's not closed. The need has not changed, and neither has our mission or our determination. We will keep doing the work that we always do as a wildlife agency. That's the work that matters to hunters and anglers. We will adjust, and we will plan wisely over the next several months. And we will move forward, and we will do this together. We'll be meeting with the commission, and we'll have a budget that we will bring before the public in the month of August. We're going to start talking to the commission. Again, now we already have meetings scheduled with the budget chair and the commission leadership. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, Director Maxedon. Do we have any announcements from any commissioners? All right, seeing none. Director Maxedon, do you want to call Dr. Schlarbaum to the podium?
Yes, sir. I'm going to say a few words before we call him up. So, commissioners, today, this is really a privilege for me. I have the privilege of introducing someone who's had a profound impact not only on the state of Tennessee, but really on my own career and on countless students and professionals across the Southeast. Dr. Scott Schlarbaum leads the University of Tennessee's Tree Improvement Program. It's one of the most respected and longest running programs of its kind in the country. It was founded in 1958, and since joining the UT School of Natural Resources in 1984 as assistant professor of forest genetics, he's progressed through the ranks to become a leader in forest genetics, forest health, and applied research that has strengthened the resilience and sustainability of Tennessee's forests really for decades. Over the course of his career, Dr. Schlarbaum has taught thousands of students, including myself, while I was completing my master's degree here at UT in forestry. And while the program prepared me for the technical challenge of managing forests and wildlife, it was Dr. Schlarbaum himself who prepared me for the responsibility of stewardship. I'm thankful for that, Dr. Schlarbaum. His mentorship didn't end with graduation. He's one of the handful of people who have shaped the way that I lead, the way that I solve problems, and the way that I try to invest in others the same way that he invested in me. I can say without hesitation that I would not be standing in this position today had I not gone through his program and the program here at UT. Again, I'm very grateful for that. Beyond the classroom, his expertise is recognized across the country. He has authored numerous articles on forest genetics, forest health, and restoration. He's been called to testify before U.S. Congress on 5 separate occasions on issues ranging from timber salvage to exotic pests. His influence is woven into nearly every part of Southeast forested landscape. TWA is proud to partner with Dr. Schlarbaum and the UT Tree Improvement Program. Their work provides locally adapted and genetically improved seed for forest restoration across Tennessee. Some of the notable efforts that we've been able to work with him on is our bottom and hardwood restoration projects out in West Tennessee. While I was out there, we restored over 10,000 acres under his direction and using local seed sources. I think he's probably going to tell us a little bit about how that works today. The identification and propagation of the rare sand post oak was found out there in one of our WMAs, and he's been working on that. And then seed collection and development of seed orchards. And what this does is supply future forest restoration projects for us and other entities across the state. So it's an honor to welcome him today as he presents to the commission. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Scott Schlarbaum.
Thank you for the kind words, Jason. Let's see, get oriented here. This is going to be an update, or actually a report and an update, and I'll talk a little bit why it's later about why it's a report. But first, I want to familiarize the commission and the audience with the UT Tree Improvement Program. We're kind of quiet, but we've been around for a long, long time, as Jason indicated. Our mission is to genetically improve and protect forest tree species in value areas important to Tennessee landowners. Now, when you see tree improvement, you think, oh, it's timber. Not really. So we're holistic in our species selection. We pay attention to wildlife values, we pay attention to timber, pollinators, stream restoration species, and then also to the general forest diversity, structure, and function in Tennessee. So here's our areas that we work in. We develop genetically improved and locally adapted seed. And then in the absence of improvement, we developed locally adapted seed. All the seed that we produce of our seed orchards all goes to the East Tennessee State Nursery to be grown for Tennessee landowners for various purposes. We conserve rare tree and shrub species and species with non-native pest problems. We conduct research on developing high-quality seedlings, and I'll mention a little bit about that later in the West Tennessee projects. And probably just as importantly as anything else, we operate under an MOU with TWRA and Tennessee Division of Forestry. And actually, it's a series of MOUs. We've had one with TWRA since 2013, and with the Division of Forestry, it goes back to 1966. My predecessor, Professor Thor, set that up. I'm doing basically a briefing and a report here. I'm supposed to do that annually to each agency. When we collect seed, we address TWRA seed needs first. In other words, they can reserve seedlings out the East Tennessee State Nursery that came out of the tree improvement program. And maybe more importantly, particularly in this time of budget cuts and whatnot, this isn't a money deal. This is a true cooperative deal. We don't exchange money with TWRA or TDF. This is true cooperation. We put in our expertise and our manpower, and both agencies do the same. Now, quick summary about our program: 67-year-old academic and a service program. So we're really R&D. We work on the front end of forestry by creating the right seed. That's either genetically improved and locally adapted or locally adapted seed to grow seed for the state nursery for reforestation, restoration, and species enrichment. We primarily work with hardwood species, which really differs us from some of the other tree improvement programs. There are not many left. And we include state level S1, your endangered species that are out there. We make dual selections in our genetic test, both for timber qualities and for wildlife characteristics. I've got a slide on that I'll show you. We administer the Tennessee Seed Orchard System orchards, which transfer seed to the state nursery, to grow for the Tennessee landowners. This is a cooperative effort. This is not just a UT effort. And I'll talk more about that later. We have more species diversity than any other tree seed orchard program in this state. Working with the division and American Forest, we created the Tennessee Wild Forest Seed Collection Network to meet immediate seed by the state nursery. It takes a while to get seed from our seed orchards that were set up. We're unique in having both a seed orchard system and a wild forest seed collection network, and maybe in meeting the land-grant university mission, we fill a niche that forest industry is just not going to enter. So we're doing the work that we're doing is very appropriate and in line with the land-grant university mission. This is a slide on dual selection. This is southern red oak, and basically we'll go into our genetic tests and make timber selections and the growth, form, and whatnot. But for wildlife, you want a tree that's kind of hairy. A lot of branches, a lot of sites for nesting, a lot of sites for seed production. The Tennessee Seed Orchard System is a collaborative effort among state, federal agencies, Jack Daniel Distillery, NGOs, and then the UT Tree Improvement Program. We create the orchards, we administer them, but they're on a variety of lands. Here you can see the seed orchard on the Lick Creek WMA here in East Tennessee for swamp white oak. So, now, seed orchards. Let me explain a little bit about forest tree seed orchards. First, think of an apple orchard, but with bigger trees and acorns instead of apples. So this is what a seed orchard, bearing seed orchard looks like. This is the Jack Daniels White Oak Seed Orchard, and UT Southern students collecting acorns for us. a year or two ago. Our seed orchards are developed from progeny tests. Those are genetic tests, and those tests yield genetically improved seed. Well, grafted clones of natural trees, rooted cuttings of natural trees, or wildlings. Wildlings are just trees that are growing in the woods, and we dig them up, put them into a seed orchard setting. We don't use that approach very much. This is a pin oak orchard out in West Tennessee on the Ames Research Center. Seed orchard development, we pay attention to Tennessee and the grand divisions in Tennessee. And so we develop with materials from each division. So West Tennessee seed orchards have West Tennessee genotypes, and Middle Tennessee genotypes, and the same for East Tennessee. So at the very least, the seed is locally adapted. So, and this is the results of the tree improvement program's long history. And we basically have orchards scattered all over the state. We have 3 orchard hubs in West Tennessee on the Ames Plantation, the Ames Ag Research and Education Center, and then now the Wolf River State Forest. That land was sold by the Ames Plantation to the state, but our seed orchards are protected under that agreement. Middle Tennessee seed orchard at Jack Daniel Distillery. Of course, that's the one I get all the questions about. And in East Tennessee, up on the Tennessee Norris Dam Reservation. You go up to the dam reservation, underneath the dam, and you see trees planted with tree tubes and cages. That's us. Stuck. Okay, there we go. I've handed the commission a set of brochures here, and I don't have time to go into all of this, but all of this is covered in a set of brochures from the tree improvement program. Here's the species we work with, and because we're here along with the wildlife community, you can pick out some of the species that are important to wildlife that certainly aren't important to timber, like persimmon and things like that. So, but it's 44 species total, and that's way more than any other program has ever even dreamed about dealing with. One of the goals that we're trying to do is develop a basically year-round hard mass, soft mass seed supply for wildlife. And so this so far is our efforts. We have difficulty in the spring because not many things flower and fruit really fast except for service bearing this spring, and we're going to move into service bearing the next year or two. But we're very cognizant of that, and we're cognizant of pollinators too, because with trees you get pollen, and so we're looking to make sure that our pollinators have a source of food as well as wildlife. This is the only chart I'm going to show. If you just pay attention to the purple lines mean that there was no seed produced in that year, and this is of the Jack Daniels White Oak Orchard. So you can see in 2018 we didn't have much of a seed crop, but in 2020, 21, 22 we had quite a bit of a seed crop. So we have masting years, and you hunters and all are certainly familiar with that occur in seed orchards. And so but our state nurseries still want to grow those species. So how do they get the seed where our seed orchards don't have them? So we developed with American Forest initially a Tennessee Wild Forest Seed Network, where we go out and find naturally occurring trees of a wide variety of species. And we've been looking and recording species that like this all over the state. And so this just augmented our existing effort. And we in the division have pulled resources on that. And so we've come up, here's some of the results of our work where we've located all kinds of tree species. There's southern crabapple, there's American plum, and there's bur oak locations. This initial cooperation, as I say, was between those 3 groups. Then now many state agencies and NGOs are involved, including TWRA. As I said, we get large naturally occurring trees for seed collection. And we get a boat on the tree improvement side, we get a benefit for that, because if we haven't worked with that species, we'll go ahead and either graft it or clone it and bring it into a seed orchard setting. So, and selected species are included uncommon and rare species. An example I'm going to use of that is sand cherry. How many of you heard of sand cherry? One person, two people. We've got basically two populations of sand cherry left in Tennessee. They're down in the Oak Barrens near Tullahoma. This species had 5 or 6 populations about 50 years ago. This is about gone. These fields are burned. We protected what's left from burning, but we're just about to lose this species. It grows like a plum. It thickens. It doesn't get very big, but it produces fruit, and again, it produces habitat. And so it's on the Arnold Air Force Base, May Prairie, state natural areas, really short. These stems are getting burned up by the burning, so we're protecting these populations from burning. And so we went out, because we were really worried about these, and tried to collect branches with buds for chip budding. We do that. We clone these trees by grafting in the fall. You do that with chip budding, and really small material and difficult to work with. But let's see. Oh, there we go. My grafter is quite good, my chief grafter, and out of all the attempts that we made, we finally got 2 successful grafts of sand cherry. I already have a spot. We're going to keep working with this, expand these populations, and then I've already got a spot for a seed orchard on a UT station down by Tullahoma. Jason referred to high quality seedlings, and this is, you can watch me age in this photo, but we are the only university that actually really works intensively with high quality seedlings and teaches our students about high quality seedlings. And it makes all the difference in terms of reforestation. That's basically oaks, high quality seedlings of different oaks. And so basically around late 90s, early 2000s, we decided that we needed to transfer this technology. TWRA was having trouble with success out in their West Tennessee plantings where they were trying to reclaim bottomland hardwoods. And so you can see a young Jason there in 2003. And so we went in with local seed collections and grew them for high quality, and that made all the difference in the world. Elusive success turned into virtually guaranteed success out there. And how many acres were reforested? About 10,000 acres. So it was a good example of a technology transfer from a land grant school over to a state agency. So the future, we've actually done our job too well. We've got dozens of orchards scattered across the state, over 50 orchards scattered across the state. That's a lot of orchard management. And then when they come in to bear seed, it's a lot of seed collection. We can't handle it at the UT Tree Improvement Program, and their state agencies aren't really set up to handle this either. So what I've done, I've copied an organizational chart from the U.S. Forest Service's Darena Genetic Resources Lab out near Corvallis, Oregon, and basically switched to proposing an expanded tree improvement program where we have a research component, and we actually, the operational manager in this flow chart takes the pressure off of the scientist, so the scientist can do science. I'm not doing that right now. A little bit of science, a lot of administration, and then actually have a crew that can get out and either manage the orchards or go out to the natural trees and collect seed for the state nursery. So and this will meet our state's need for many years, make optimum use of the seed orchards that we've set up and the wild seed network too. So with that, I'll start to close, and at the bottom of your brochures, on every brochure, it's got a link to our website, and down at the bottom we have social media links. We've got some movies we've made, and Facebook and Instagram. This website itself is somewhat static, but if you want to see what we're doing right now, go to the Facebook site. We keep that updated every month or two with what we're doing. And finally, on a personal note, I'll close with this slide. I've been in this game a long time. That's me in 1966, holding a black rat snake with some young people as assistant naturalist. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Commissioner Box.
Great presentation. You talked about the future a bit, but what about this program, the UT program, after you're gone?
I haven't declared a retirement date yet, but I think, so that's uncertain. I will say if we looked at history of what's happened to all the tree improvement programs across the nation, and it used to be every state, every land grant school, about everyone except for in the Great Basin, had tree improvement programs. When the old applied forest geneticists retired, they were replaced by molecular biologists. And I will tell you that is curtains for any applied plantings or orchards or anything that's out there. So that's one thing that we need to try to avoid here when I finally do retire, because the seed orchards just will not get the support.
Commissioner Butt.
Thank you, Doc, for that great presentation. I do have a question. Can you speak to the issues affecting species of the red oak family, particularly the pin oaks that branches are dying, and especially in Middle Tennessee, we're losing a lot of pin oaks.
No, I can't. It almost sounds like oak wilt, but we don't have a lot of oak wilt down here. And we have not seen that we have a pin oak seed orchard. We've not seen that in our pin oak. And I'm not a pathologist, so, but I have, I kind of monitor what's going on, and I have not heard of any more. It's non-native pest that comes in and bothers the trees, that causes things like that.
Okay.
So I haven't, but we'll watch for that in our seed orchard,
Thank you.
which are good places to study things like that because all the materials are pedigreed. So we can see any genetic differences in them.
Any other commissioners with comments, questions? Dr. Schlarbaum, we really appreciate this, and I think it's a great example of where research meets field results, and I had no idea that UT even had a program like this, so thank you so much for your life's work.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to present this, and I'll continue updates, every year per the MOU among us. So, thank you very much.
All right, Commissioner McCarty, Chair of Wildlife Committee, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioner Davenport. We've got a lot of items to go over today. Our Chief, Joe Benedict, has 6 voting items for us that he's going to make presentations. He's going to go over those items, and we will make motions in the Wildlife Committee. There will be an opportunity prior to the commission or the committee and the commission discussion for public comments on those. Our council will guide us through those. After we get through all the questions, we will vote on it from a committee standpoint and move it up to tomorrow's meeting. That being said, I will ask Chief Joe Benedict to get started.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be here at the culmination of our season setting process. We're here today, like the chairman said, to share with you the agency's final recommendations for the hunting and trapping seasons for 2026-27 season. Every year we have this slide to remind folks, remind us all, and for members of the public that may be just kind of chiming into this process. We collect biological data and survey data throughout the year. Thank you to those that provide the input for that. The director thanked everyone for the comments on the season setting process. I want to echo those thanks. And also to those folks that allow us to measure their deer at check stations, do some poult hen counts for turkeys and other ways that they help submit some data. We also have the survey data. So turkey season will be wrapping up here next month, and we'll get a random sample of turkey hunters. We'll send them a survey. So again, thanks to those that do the deer and turkey hunter random surveys. The agency has a bunch of meetings with these data going back to December is kind of when we start that process. Varying levels, work unit levels, regional levels, at the division level, and then we have the executive staff will work through those with us as well, our recommendations. As you guys know, 2 years ago, Mark McBride, our Assistant Chief of Game Species, presented a kind of a detailed dive into this new process we're using called adaptive harvest management. And that process sets goals or objectives, and then recommendations for season setting. And then what we look for is a 3-year period where those regulations remain constant. And the reason for that is when a regulation's changed, sometimes hunters take a year or so to kind of lean into that and understand it and adjust to that regulation, whether it's hunting more, harvesting more animals. And we really need a couple of years of data so that we can tell the impact of that regulation change, right? If the first year we do a regulation change, the data may not be the real data. So again, we use 3 years of data in these agency meetings and also 3 years of public input the last couple of years. So we know that different folks have different motivations to comment over the course of 3 or 4 years. And so we want to take those holistically and look at those. From there, we develop the agency recommendations. And again, we run this through the director, and then they become the agency recommendation. One of the pieces, I want to kind of go back to the data piece there that I forgot to mention. When I almost made a seesaw slide with a little animation, but sometimes animations in PowerPoint don't work. But Mark and I were talking, and Philip, our other assistant chief, months ago, and I thought, man, it's like a seesaw, right? So I'm motivated when I'm on the bottom of the seesaw. Let's say you had a friend that was bigger than you, and he or she was always at the bottom, and you're up there kicking your legs, you couldn't do anything. And so the guy on the bottom is motivated, so he pushes off. And then the other guy gets to the side, the bottom, and then he's motivated to push off. So that's kind of a silly example, but we really see that with our public input. So think back 10 years, 9 years, 5 years ago, when we think about deer, what was the number one comment that y'all were getting? We want to bait deer in Tennessee. That was the majority of folks. Well, they were motivated because you couldn't bait deer and they wanted to bait. Other surrounding states had it and had other reasons. Well, now that we have baiting, the General Assembly said, commissioners, you will allow this baiting privilege. This year, in our deer comments, the majority of folks wanted us to do away with baiting. So again, it's the seesaw thing. So again, the idea is this motivational bias, and Mark will talk a little more about this. But again, that's why I want to look at this time period of comments and biological data as well. So after the meeting today, this is the second commission meeting, obviously. You guys will provide final votes on these proclamations, and then we'll go back and prepare the hunting guide. And so want to, again, thank the folks that provided public input. This was not a poll. We're not looking for the final vote. We're not counting. We are counting. I mean, we have numbers here. We had a good input this year, but this isn't like an easy button that we're looking for to make the decision for us. It's one piece. And one of the things we've been sharing for a couple of years is the idea that when we look at these comments, and you all have seen these, you got this as a big email packet about a week ago or more. Did we miss anything in our proposals? Our staff, the law enforcement officers, they're out there every day in their communities. They're at baseball fields, they're at church, they're at the gas stations and lunch places, and they're hearing from constituents. And so we feel holistically as an agency, we get a good view of what people are thinking about, talking about, and may want to change. But when we do this public input, specifically on our recommendations that we proposed last month, it gives us a really good chance to say, did we miss something as we develop these recommendations? So that's kind of one of the ways that we look at public input. It's not the easy button. It's not the final button. It's just one piece of input that we use, and you guys as well. I know many of you read a lot of those comments. I can't remember how many pages the PDF of the emails were, but it was a long document. So again, thanks to those folks that provided public input. We've got almost 2,000 comments, and Mark will share the individual comments on each proclamation during that proclamation. So the last slide for me is a list of the proclamations we'll consider today. The first one is big game hunting season and bag limits. And you'll recall from the March commission meeting that we don't have any recommendations for changes there. We did talk about turkey season start dates at the commission request. And so we'll provide some information on that. And then let you all deliberate if there are any recommendations from the commission. We've got manner and means. The manner and means proclamation, really I think one of the primary pieces of changes for that is to allow the baiting license to go into effect. That's part of that manner and means. We have a partner request from Big South Fork to change some things about hog hunting on their land. That's the National Wildlife Refuge Proclamation. Migratory game bird seasons, those seasons are unchanged from last year. We have to change the calendar dates. Jamie, our migratory bird coordinator, also, you'll see in the red line, changed some dates to generic. So that's some changes you'll see in the red line. And then finally, we have over 130 WMAs. There's always a few changes we want to make in there, as well as a couple of statewide WMA regulations that Mark will share. So, Mr. Chairman, if there's no questions for me, I'll turn it over to Mark.
All right, thank you, Chief Benedict. Good afternoon, Commissioners. We'll start here with the statewide big game proclamation. As Joe said, we're not proposing any changes, so I'm just going to kind of give a rundown of the public input that we received, kind of provide some context to why we're not making some recommendations on a few of these items. And then we'll also kind of preview what the big game, the deer and turkey hunting seasons will look like without any changes next year. So starting with deer, Joe did a great explanation of the adaptive harvest management kind of overview of the process that we went through a number of years ago. Just a reminder that we're in year 2 of 3 of that modeling cycle. So Joe kind of explained that, you know, we're wanting hunters to buy into that regulation and also kind of commit to it so we can see what harvest looks like under that regulation. But on kind of the more sciencey side, we're also looking at the deer and turkey populations, how they fluctuate. And of all the variables that we can control, we want to hold as many stable so that we can start to decipher, well, hey, was this change in the population because of that hunting regulation or because of another variable that's driving the deer or turkey population? And if we frequently change hunting seasons, we lose the ability to say, well, we think that was because of hunting season or natural variation, because there's just too much complexity in the system to parse out what harvest and hunting regulations role is in those fluctuations of deer and turkey populations. So that's fundamentally why we're really wanting 3 years of stability and regulations so we can really start to understand through this framework what exactly is the role of these hunting regulations in the population dynamics of deer and turkey. So as it pertains to deer, Commissioners, we had 260 comments. They were highly varied. We see this every year with our deer regulations. There's a lot of hunters that want longer seasons. There's a whole lot that want shorter seasons. Some hunters want higher buck bag limits, some want lower. So when we look holistically, we feel like we're striking a pretty good balance with our deer regulations, right? We're making everyone kind of the least amount unhappy, which is what we strive to do. So here's the deer seasons, what they'll look like with the units and seasons next year. These are just the dates updated for the new calendar. I'll let you take that in for a second or two. And of course, we can come back to this if there's questions at the end of this proclamation. All right, we're going to move into turkeys now. As Chief Benedict said, we are not proposing any changes. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the public input and why the agency took a step back, looked at everything, and ultimately decided here with the calendar next year not to recommend a change. Again, we do kind of want to hold the line with the adaptive harvest management and have some stability for that 3-year cycle. But when we also look at some of the past public input that we've gotten and all the pieces of this puzzle, when we look at the season start date for next year, it's a little later in the calendar, but it's shifted to that 1 week delay. So we're 1 week past the traditional opener where we used to start. And when we did this whole adaptive harvest management process, there was a lot of buy-in for that, right? It balances the higher success with a slightly later start, higher youth success. It maybe acknowledges some of the uncertainty in the research that there could be an effect of starting later. But also keeps it a little earlier for those individuals that want to hear a little more gobbling and have a little more interactive hunting. When we look 2 years down the road, you can see here the 2026 alternative idea that we brought up, what the agency proposed in 2024 and our current start date all actually align with the same date, April 8th, which is that, again, that 1 week delay beyond the traditional opener. So Commissioners, obviously you got the public input. There was clear traditional date that was favored by the hunters this year. Again, public input we feel is just one piece of the puzzle, and there was certainly some bias. And I'm not suggesting that a lot of our hunters don't want a traditional date, but I think we need to use caution when we interpret any of this public data and realize that it all has limitations. So the big thing is motivation bias, and Chief Benedict spoke about that. There was also, a timing bias. People are filling out this survey in the middle to the end of March when they're sitting on their front porch drinking coffee, watching a gobbler strut across the street. Of course they want to be out there hunting. There was certainly some pressure that we saw on social media where this link was shared around, hey, go here and say this, which certainly influenced some people that otherwise wouldn't have to go in there and say, hey, yeah, I want this. And then the other question is how aware were respondents of these other puzzle pieces and kind of the other conversations going on here? So we want to talk a little bit about those puzzle pieces. Obviously, youth and opening weekend success, you guys have probably heard, these past 2 weekends have been tremendous, both of them record-setting weekends. The data is fairly clear now that there is higher success as we start a little later. Another piece, and we saw this a lot in the public comments, and this speaks to what Joe was saying, are we missing something when we're reading these public comments? There's a lot of individuals that are concerned with going all the way back to the traditional opener, because we will then be again opening before a lot of our border states, and their concern is, hey, we're going to have a lot more individuals coming to our public land and potentially trying to get an early crack at our turkeys before their state opens. So that's certainly a consideration. And then, of course, we need to consider previous year's input, how we got here, commission discussions. That's certainly, when you guys make these decisions and have these discussions, it does set a precedent. And then lastly, there still is a lot of uncertainty around the impacts of the season start date. We talked about this extensively with our staff, and there's a lot of research in different views on what the impact of season start date is. And so when we go back to our adaptive harvest management thing, we really felt like where the season falls this next year is a 1-week delay from the traditional opener. And we would like to keep the season the same so we can get that third year of data, use our own data to look at, is there an impact here? Can we tie any sort of correlation from a later start to higher productivity, a higher pull per hen the following summer after that hunting season? So ultimately, that's the reason that the agency decided not to make a formal recommendation to change things. So I do want to share the youth weekend and then the adult weekend turkey harvest just for context. Again, these were both record-setting weekends. And you can see the bar there quite a bit higher than we've ever seen. The juveniles harvested almost 3,000 turkeys in 2 days. And that was Easter weekend, so there was probably some limitations Sunday morning with who could get out. And then, of course, I shared this in March. We also tried to look at, well, does higher success in the juvenile opening weekend, does that translate to higher success across the entire turkey season? Or are those hunters still able to get out during the regular season and harvest as many birds? You can see with those averages there, after the delay, there's a lot higher success. So juvenile weekend success does translate to the total amount of birds that young sportsmen, it translates to the total number of young sportsmen that are successful across an entire turkey season. So that's a good thing, right? More kids are able to get out there and harvest a turkey. This past weekend with the adult harvest, again, another record, and you can see there it's almost 2,000 birds and we've recorded in the past 9 years or so. So it was a hair over 12,000 turkeys harvested. And from what we've heard, that high success has continued into this week. So, commissioners, this is what the season would look like next spring. Again, we're setting the season for spring 2027. The season would open April 10th and run until May 23rd. And an important point there is now that we've shifted into a 1-week delay from our historic traditional opener, this season is going to end before Memorial Day weekend. So May 23rd is the Sunday before Memorial Day weekend. We know a lot of hunters didn't like that season ending on Memorial Day weekend. So we'll be back off that next year with this recommendation. I'm going to wrap it up with bear management. We had a lot of public input from the bear hunters. Thank you for making your voice heard. It was clear they wanted more training days. So we spoke at the last meeting. We spoke with our bear management staff, ultimately decided not to bring a recommendation. And this is mostly because our understanding is the large tracts of public land have the most utility for bear dog training, right? They can let their dogs loose. They don't have to worry about property boundaries. They can get on bears. They can train them. The dogs can run, get in shape. That's much harder to do on private land where you have smaller tracts. And of course, you're trying not to let those dogs run onto adjoining properties where you don't have permission to be. So we spoke with the U.S. Forest Service about adding more training days on North and South Cherokee. They came back and kind of clarified and really affirmed their stance, and that is that we are not open to training from the beginning of turkey season through Labor Day. And that is due to the impacts, obviously, to turkey hunters during the turkey season. And then it comes into the Forest Service real busy time of year, right? They've got a lot of visitors coming, camping, hiking, that sort of thing. So that leaves a window between the end of deer season and the beginning of turkey season where the Forest Service would be open to training. But when we spoke with our bear management staff and even with the bear hunters, there's some resource concerns there because you have emerging sows, extremely young cubs that aren't able to climb yet. So they could be susceptible to some of those dogs. And then secondarily to that, the U.S. Forest Service has a lot of their roads closed to keep their roads in good shape during the winter months. So access wouldn't be great for bear hunters that time of year anyways. So with that, commissioners, I'm done with the statewide big game proclamation if there's any questions.
Mark, I think we'll start with comments from the public and then go to commissioners or the committee members and then commissioners. If there are any public people that want to make a statement or related to these, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. And please introduce yourself.
Fred Walker from Maryville, Tennessee. When you pledged allegiance to that flag, you pledged allegiance to a republic, not a democracy. That means I, as an individual or a minority, have indivisible rights under the Constitution. The majority does not necessarily rule. Federal government and the state government has given me an exemption on my flintlock. It is not a firearm. It is considered the same as an archery season or an archer. I am asking for no hunter orange flintlock season during the archery season. It's going to be beneficial to the state of Tennessee. I have asked you to charge for this season, which is going to bring in income for the TWRA, who does not have the income. I think you should strongly consider it and not ignore it. I think it's shameful for you to ignore my request. It is very simple. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Butler with Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Last year, we came before y'all with respect to a straight wall cartridge allowance or a season that we requested, and we went back to the drawing board this year. Each one of y'all should have received a copy of a letter that had our comments and a survey that we put out regarding this upcoming request. And after speaking with staff and speaking with the director, the compromise, if you want to call it that was discussed back and forth, which we are comfortable with, is to make a request of the committee to amend the proclamation to allow for, on private lands only, the second week of the muzzleloader season, the use of straight wall cartridge rifles by hunters. So it is not a request to modify the muzzleloader season in any way. We've submitted draft language to council that lines out the definition, the legal definition of a straight wall cartridge rifle. I believe it's 35 caliber and up, straight wall metallic. That's available if you want to see it. So our request would be to ask the committee to amend the proclamation to include that opportunity for our sportsmen during only the second week of muzzleloader on private lands exclusively. And so that's our request, and we'd ask that you consider that before committee closes. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I'd like to comment on that. I don't mind pushing to move to make an amendment for that. Any other comments?
Once we get through any other public ones.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks. Wish I'd known
Hi,
that.
guys. Good to see you again. I'm Travis Rogers, Tennessee Bear Hunters Association. Like any good houndsman, we're looking for more resources to train our hounds. We'll take the private land. I appreciate you guys going to the Forest Service for us. We're working with them too, working on them, I guess we should say. But if we could get some more training season on private land to show that this is an asset and not, going to hurt anything, I believe it'll go a lot farther with the Forest Service so we can get more training there too. Because Tennessee's the only state that's doing this with the Labor Day deal and stuff, because North Carolina has more training season on federal land. Georgia has it year round. Maine, all the states that have the Appalachian Trail running through it have more training days than we have. Now, this is a state Forestry Service problem, not a federal. So I'm working with them, and we're trying to get that took care of. The guys that are on the commission up in my area, Bristol and Johnson City, it's good to meet you guys. I hadn't got to talk to you, and I'd like to talk to you, when we get a break or a recess. But if we could, like I said, baby steps, I'd like to add just 1 week onto our spring training season. We came up last year and talked about it. It went over without a hitch. I got in touch with all the bear hunters in the organization. They got in touch with all their friends. Everybody's on their best behavior, and I believe they will still be willing to do that. But the baby steps that we take will just help us get what we need and what we want in the future. So if you would consider that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment.
My name is Tim Bryant. I'm from Anderson County, Clinton. I'm just an old guy that has hunted and fished all my life. Always wanted to hunt with a flintlock. And I can certainly do that within the boundaries of the flintlock and muzzleloader season that run together that you have now. When I ply my trade with the flintlock, it's more closely aligned distance-wise with archery. So to hunt during what you have for muzzleloader season now, I'm competing with guys with these inline things and percussion, which I have used too, that can shoot 3 times as far as we can. And I'm asking you to consider giving us something for a season of our own, whether it's in line with archery or in a certain setting, like a certain area of a management area, so that we can do what we find happiness in. If you want to charge for extra permits and stuff to cover the cost of enforcement and everything, I'm sure that would be fine, especially with the 250th anniversary. If you look, Thompson Center, CVA, they're all coming back out with flintlocks. It's becoming more and more popular. And I think the state of Tennessee and the Wildlife Resources Agency can take advantage of all the excise taxes on the weapons and the equipment and make everybody happy. And I just thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you today.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else want to make a public comment related to our the big game hunting seasons and bag limits? We will move into the committee discussion first. For a reminder of I'm the committee chair. Ford Little's the vice chair. Chris Devaney, Steve Jones, Rhonda Moody, and Rosemary McElhenney are the committee members. We will start with the committee first relative to any questions or comments.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think moving to amend that second week of muzzleloader season to straight wall cartridge, offering that on private lands is something we ought to consider. So,
Are you offering that as a motion?
yes.
Let me clarify with Mark. Would that technically fall here or in manner and means?
We believe that would fall in the big game proclamation. This would be the appropriate place to do that. Yes, sir.
So we have a motion in the committee. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Chris Devaney.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. We're gonna need Juliana to do a roll call on this one. Juliana, do you have the committee list?
Yes. John McCarty,
No.
Ford Little,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Steve Jones, Rhonda Moody,
Yes.
Rosemary McElhenney,
Yes.
ayes have it.
That motion passes. Other discussion related to the big game hunting?
I have a couple comments. When we were at Buffalo River, last month, the agency came out with what it indicated was a 2026 alternative. I'm not sure what happened between now and then, but in looking at that, it seemed to be a reasonable recognition that a compromise that would be, I think, somewhat palatable to both sides of the aisle when it comes to dealing with the traditional opening day for turkey season and what we're currently doing with regard to turkey season. I thought between then and now we were welcoming public comment, and that would in some way have some impact on the agency and we as commissioners as to what direction we would go. And I read through the comments, and overwhelmingly, folks who responded indicated that they wanted it to be earlier. I understand that there's pushback from the agency of going back to the traditional day, but obviously when you come to us in Buffalo River and say, here's an alternative of 2026, which seems to be a very reasonably thought out approach, and then we listen to what we heard today, and that seems to be you're not recommending that anymore, and now you're saying we're not going to give a whole lot of credence to public comment, because if you look at your slide, it seems to, from a legal standpoint, I'll tell you, it didn't seem like it was really very balanced. And then I think it's important to not only consider the comments and consider them for what they're worth, but I think if you look at, go back to that slide, stop now. I agree with you. Next year, you've talked about a prior proposal and the current start. It would be different if we went to the 2026. And you all just focused on the 2027, 2028. The problem you've got is when you get to 2029, 2030, and 2031, you're going to the 14th, the 13th, and the 12th with regard to the opening season. And for those of us who enjoy turkey hunting, that's just way too late. That's just way too late. And we talked about at Buffalo River, the fact that you really don't have any scientific evidence from the professors who have done studies to show that, if we wait later, we're going to end up having, a better turkey crop or better turkey population. And listen, last week I killed a turkey, and I had a bunch of friends kill turkeys, and had youngsters kill turkeys 2 weeks ago. I'm thrilled we've had a good turkey season.
But we all know the reason why we had a good turkey season this year. It's not because of our seasons. It's because we had a great 2 Saturdays of weather. It was wonderful weather. So people went out and hunted. Last year, it rained and it was cold. People didn't go out and hunt as much last year. So the point I'm making is this, is that I understand the adaptive study that you're concerned about. I don't think, and I think consistent with what you mentioned at Buffalo River, that considering the 2026 alternative, you are undermining your study impact or your efforts to evaluate in a consistent way. I also think it is a reasonable compromise and takes into consideration the concerns that have been voiced in the comments. And it's just as important. Look, I've got a brand new granddaughter who I gave a lifetime fishing and hunting license to here just this past few months ago. I'm all about youth hunting. And John and I were just looking at this to make sure the youth hunting day will be no earlier than the traditional day for hunting until 2032. And that's the only day in the next, it looks like 10 years, that the youth hunting day will be any earlier than we normally would have the traditional hunting. And so, and like I said, that's going to be March 27th of 2032. So what I would ask the Wildlife Committee to consider is this: we don't go back to the traditional, but we adjust slightly what we are currently doing so that we take into consideration the 2026 alternative that Mark, you discussed with us last time. I think that number one is a reasonable compromise. Number two, it doesn't move youth hunting any earlier, which we don't want to move it too early. Number three, it allows us to not move too much with regard to your adaptive science that you're wanting to be concerned about. And fourthly, it recognizes that there is some value to the input that we get from public comment, which overwhelmingly was in favor of moving it a little bit early. So my motion would be that we consider the 2026 alternative that we talked about at Buffalo River and just adjust the turkey season only. I'm not making any other motions accordingly.
So we have a motion to propose to change the agency recommendation to the 2026 alternative as shown on the screen. Do we have a second?
A second.
Do we have any discussion on this motion? I will add that I think that from the commissioners that I've heard from is that there is a strong balance towards the increase in the success of the juvenile with having a slightly earlier date based on the comment. Being that I live in Shelby County, I can promise y'all I want it open earlier than anybody else because I feel like it's June down there this year with the early spring, but I also get the benefit of hunting in Mississippi. So I'm not as hamstrung as people that live a long way from Mississippi.
I'd like to make another comment. I second what Ford is saying. I don't think that this change would truly affect the youth. We have so many opportunities for our youth. I think if we have the opportunity to do what our licensed buyers are asking, this is an opportunity where it's not going to affect biology. And I think, I'm a huge proponent of R3 and youth hunts, but I think if we go to this 2026 alternative, it's a strong compromise.
Commissioner Davenport.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman McCarty. I think the juvenile evidence is just indisputable. I think the juveniles are the future of the sport. I think we've got a funding issue, and more license sales equals a stronger long-term agency. And I'm not a committee member, but I would just ask everyone to remember where we were 4 years ago when we set the season back. The public comment was do something, and we did something. And now the public comment 4 years later is do something different. So the juvenile evidence, between the 26 and the 24 proposal, it would seem to me that if 2 out of 7 years the juveniles got to hunt, on April 3rd instead of late March, that would be a good thing to do. I took my daughters for 14 years turkey hunting, and I hunted on March 22nd one time, and it was freezing cold, and it didn't affect the kids, but it certainly affected the turkey behavior. So that's my thoughts on the juvenile part.
Any other comments?
I would just like to talk to the point of year 2 out of 3 for the adaptive harvest management. I understand the changes and the preliminary reports from 2 years on the ratio and stuff. But at the same time, if we keep moving it, we are not completing our study. Am I understanding that right? If we committed to 3 years of this study, do we need to complete our 3 years?
Yeah, so obviously from the agency perspective, this is gonna be an ongoing process for years, but it's gonna make it easier for us to parse out the data and draw any correlations there. I mean, obviously there's gotta be, dozens of iterations until we're really comfortable, just with the science as it evolves through that. I think one point for clarification is we're in year 2 of 3. So next year, when we're crunching all that data, there will be an opportunity again for the agency to look at this. I don't think you're going to see the agency propose the current start date next year or the year after when you start to see the, April 14th and 13th and 12th. So going back to why we made this decision this year, we're at that 1 week delay, which is fundamentally that kind of that balance in our minds. And it still allows us to get some continuity around where we're starting for us to look at in our models.
Thank you. And one more comment. We'll never be able to control the weather. We've seen it snow in April before, so I think it's worth it though to see those little ones, seeing the youngsters getting involved and getting behind it and seeing the harvest numbers. It's pretty impressive.
Any other comments?
I was at the Buffalo Ridge presentation. I was leaning towards the 2026 alternate as well. But then when you see when you do see the numbers, the juvenile numbers, the opening weekend numbers come out, that makes a pretty bold statement. The other thing that I'm seeing as a turkey hunter is those hens are getting on the nest quicker because they're undisturbed, and I think it's helping poult survival. And that's the same argument I made when I was on commission the first time, so I won't make it again, but I at least wanted to get my 2 cents worth.
Any other comments from the committee?
I'm gonna make one more comment. We're not moving back juvenile any earlier than the traditional days would have been. So if we do the 2026, the juvenile hunt is still going to be the date of the traditional opening. So it's not as if we're moving it back to middle part of March. We're still giving the juveniles, which I'm all about making sure that young folks can hunt. But if you look at 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030 and 2031, the juvenile hunt is the day of the normal traditional opening that we've had for years. So I'm not suggesting, nor in looking at the 2026 alternative, are we suggesting that it moves back any earlier than what the traditional day was to begin with.
Any more comments from the commission?
I've got a question. So one thing I noticed when I traveled from East Tennessee to Middle Tennessee is, there's a lot more leaves on the trees the farther west you go. Are we going to be making a move anytime soon where we can look at the 3 grand divisions of the state or regions and be able to make maybe modifications at a more detailed level?
So that was part of the adaptive harvest management process. We created new units. There was a lot of discussion at the focus groups and with the agency, and I think even with the commission, about looking at that different start dates at different units. And I think the big concern there was, yeah, if you're a unit that starts earlier, every unit that surrounds you is going to come right over. Similar to what we're seeing with border states, where if we're opening earlier, those hunters are coming from bordering states to get an early crack at turkeys. So I think that's the primary concern. Secondarily, if you look at the science, photo period, day length is what's driving breeding in turkeys. There's been a lot of, nest initiation studies across the Southeast that have looked at different latitudes and what breeding chronology looks like. And it's all, within a very small window because it's ultimately day length that's driving that.
I have a question about that
Yes,
because
sir.
probably like a lot of the hunters, I got lots of posts about from Mossy Oak, et cetera, about starting turkey season in other states before we did. And of course, it's no fun to get that announcement and knowing everybody else is hunting. I thought I understood you to say that there were only 300 out-of-state turkeys taken by out-of-state hunters last year. Did I misunderstand that?
Yeah,
And
I
that
think
it
you
wasn't, I thought, or maybe it was Chief Benedict that said that. And that was I thought I read that in one of the emails where it said it was just around 300 birds from out-of-state hunters. And I know we're later in Mississippi. I know we're later in Georgia. I know we're later in Alabama. So are they coming from Kentucky or something like that?
Yes, this is when we're at the traditional opener, Kentucky. I think Arkansas has been moving their season
But we're not,
every year.
yeah, but we're not
Yeah.
suggesting going back to traditional. We're
Right.
talking about doing your 2026. We're after the majority of the states around us if we go to the 2026, right?
Yes, I would look to Roger Shields for the specifics on border states. But we would even go into the 2026. There's a few border states where I think we would be earlier than. I can't recall those details.
Any other comments? Full commission.
I support the 2026 alternative, but I think we should start it in 28. And the reason is, if we have opening day on April 3rd, that will put the youth hunt on Easter weekend again. And that is troubling to me to make a child choose between church and turkey hunting. So that's my thought.
Any other comments from the commission?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
I think something else that we haven't considered, and weather was mentioned, is how pretty it is, but now think about the week or two before when the cool weather and rain, and it was suggested by a hunter that the reason we have more gobblers in the field following hens is because of delay in the hens going to nest, which makes some sense when it comes to the success that's occurred this year as well. So from a commission standpoint, or full commission, I'm in favor of the alternative as well.
I'll throw one at you. So
Proceed.
since Commissioner Box is not on this committee, I would like to amend the motion to adopt his recommendation of keeping the current start date for the next 2 years and then adopting the 2026 and 2029.
Council.
Well, the concern for me would be, this is kind of a seasonal process, so we would be coming to you all this time next year, presumably with the data that's being referenced. So I think that's something you all could certainly do next year. And I want to be clear so everybody understands, those dates there are not set in stone. Though we bring this, the agency brings this to the commission once per year, so you all can make any changes in that year. I think the question really, or the suggestion is, let's keep it static for one more year, and then let's be informed on the data. Is that a correct statement, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So while the commission could do that, when we bring this back to you next year, you might change it again. So.
So I'll rescind my, amendment because the only thing we're doing is adopting the agency's recommendations and looking at it every year anyway. So we could, 2 years from now, we could adopt the 2026 recommendation, and it would be the same thing as my amendment. Correct. So I'll rescind my amendment.
So to clarify, the current motion on the floor is for the 2026 alternative as shown on the screen. Commissioner Davenport, did you have another comment? Any other comments from the full commission? Commissioner Little, would you please restate your motion?
My motion is simply to adopt the 2026 alternative that we discussed at Buffalo River and has been discussed here today, which would have a start date on April 3rd of next year. And it would have the juvenile hunt to be when the traditional start date has been in the past of March 27th.
Any more discussion before we move to a vote? Hearing none, would you please call the roll for the committee?
John McCarty,
Yes.
Ford Little,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Steve Jones, Rhonda Moody,
No.
Rosemary McElhaney,
Yes.
ayes have it.
I'm going to pass it back to Chairman Davenport.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman McCarty. Let's take a break and reconvene at 2:45. Here. Thank you for your patience. I'll call on Commissioner McCarty to continue with big game season.
Thank you, Chairman Davenport.
Come to my house for dinner tonight?
I think we've got two things that I know about that we need to discuss. One of them, the straight wall amendment that we made. Tori has asked that we declare anything related to the straight wall. Some of the things that were discussed were potentially a 35 caliber and up, single shot. So we've got that amendment that's approved. Does anybody have a motion to amend the amendment to clarify any of the manner aspects of the straight wall? Wildlife Committee.
We have the language that was proposed, right? Is that in an email? That's what I was trying to.
Yeah, the Federation.
That the Federation suggested or submitted. I think I've got it here in an email. That's why I was trying to look for it. I think that's what we need to look at. So, bueno. Is that okay, Tori, if we just?
Rescind the motion that was made.
I thought the question was whether or not to amend the motion with regard to single shot or some type of limitation as to what type of caliber that they could use or what type of rifle. And I don't fully understand how that works, so I have to defer to others as to how that might be amended or adjusted.
Most states that have a single or a straight wall have regulations such as it needs to be 35 caliber or larger. It may be single shot. It might be exposed hammer. You could go as far as no optics on the gun, but I don't think that's the general discussion. I will make a motion to the amendment.
Let's call Mike Butler back up and let's get clarity from what his recommendation was.
Mr. Butler, would you please clarify what your recommendation was?
Thank you, Mike Butler, Tennessee Wildlife Federation. Our recommendation was to keep everything as simple as possible. However, we would not see a motion to clarify as a hostile amendment to it. So it was literally straight wall cartridge, 35 caliber and up, just during that second part of the season. So we're at the will of the committee. Thank you.
So, yeah, the amendment has already been, I'm just making an amendment to the amendment, just making sure I got my language right for Tori, to accept the stipulations that was presented by Butler in the single shot. I'm sorry.
To clarify,
Single shot
35 caliber and up.
and
Straight
that's
wall metallic cartridge
for the second week.
for the second weekend. Private land only. Do we have a second to that amendment, to the amendment?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? That amendment has moved forward. One other thing, I do believe that our staff may want to have some discussions with the bear hunters that had a discussion. Mark, is that something that you can describe?
Yes, sir. We spoke a little at the break, and there's some interest in some additional private land training days in the spring. I think it would be good for us to get with the bear hunters and staff and just talk through that, make sure there's not any conflicts. Part of this conversation is probably also going to depend on when turkey season settles and when that date is, where we want to add those spring days, because it's going to be after turkey season ends.
Can y'all bring that to us tomorrow in the full commission so that we can go ahead and move this proclamation from the committee to the commission
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes. So we have two amendments that we've voted on. One is the straight wall and one is the turkey. Is there any other discussion, comments, or amendments before the committee votes on the actual proclamation? We need a motion. So I'll make the motion to move the first proclamation forward related to the big game season. We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank y'all. Now we get to move on to the second of our sixth.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Hopefully these go a little quicker here. So next we'll take up the manner and means of hunting, taking, and trapping. This is Proclamation 2606. The agency has three recommendations. The first is really a modernization of our trapping section. We've worked with the Tennessee Fur Harvesters Association. They've reviewed and support these changes. And then we're also proposing two changes really to align with recent rules that you have passed. The first is to allow hunting deer over bait. And the second would be clarifying that drones and dogs can be used to recover deer. So as far as public input on these, commissioners, Joe mentioned this earlier, most of the comments were actually directed at baiting and opposed to it. There's just another example there of where we're hearing from a different constituency because they're motivated to come tell us they don't like what's happening. But overall, there was general support for these proposals. So the agency recommends passage of Proclamation 2606, manner and means of hunting, taking, and trapping.
Do we have anybody from the public that wants to speak to this second proclamation related to the manner and means? If not, I will move the agency's recommendation forward. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to our third item, Proclamation 2607.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Proclamation 2607, hunting seasons and bag limits on select national wildlife refuges and other federal lands. This is a partner request. We're recommending one change, and that is to restructure the hog take on Big South Fork National Recreation Area. So what this would do would remove the current requirement to have a federal permit. It would remove that. There would no longer be a federal permit. It would also remove hogs as a legal species during the small game season, but continue to allow incidental take of hogs during deer season by licensed deer hunters. So the agency recommends passage of Proclamation 2607, hunting seasons and bag limits on select national wildlife refuges and other federal lands.
Do we have any public comments related to this proclamation? Does anybody from the committee have any discussion items or questions? Hearing none, I will move the committee's recommendation. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to our fourth proclamation, the 2608.
Yes, sir. Migratory game birds, hunting seasons and regulations. This is Proclamation 2608. Just for a little context, we got a lot of comments. We had over 100 comments from the public. Most wanted the season to run later into February. Unfortunately, we're constrained by the federal framework, so we can't do that. This is a kind of consistent theme. I think a lot of hunters are unaware of those constraints that we have with the federal regulations. So functionally here, commissioners, we're updating the dates in the proclamation to reflect the 26-27 calendar. While we were doing that, we actually standardized most of the language to evergreen dates so that we don't have to go in and plug in individual dates every single year. So you will see quite a lot of red in your draft red line proclamations. And then just a reminder, commissioners, the blue-winged teal population is still below the threshold, so there are no teal-only days in September. It will just be a 5-day wood duck and teal season. And so what those dates actually look like this year, phase one, this is the standard Saturday and Sunday after Thanksgiving. And then phase 2 starts December 5th and runs till January 31st, with the youth and military hunts occurring the following 2 weekends. Fortunately, the calendar works out to the hunters' benefit this year, where you have the second phase starting on a Saturday and ending on a Sunday, and then you have a full 5-day break before the first youth and veteran hunts. So this should provide some good rest days and good opportunities, and opening day effects when those phases and youth hunts come back in. So with that, the agency recommends passage of Proclamation 2608, Migratory Game Bird Hunting Seasons and Regulations.
Do we have any public comments related to this proclamation? Hearing none, does the committee have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will move the agency's recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to our 5th item, the Proclamation 2609.
All right, statewide Furbearer hunting and trapping seasons and bag limits. Proclamation 2609. Commissioners, we have 2 proposed changes. The first is to expand the striped skunks trapping season to year-round. This is to align it with year-round hunting. The second is to remove the big game license requirement for the private lands only bobcat season. And that's also, by doing that, it will also allow any legal weapon for fur bearers to be used for bobcats during that private lands only season. In general, we had high support for these proposals. With that, the agency recommends passage of Proclamation 2609, statewide fur bearer hunting and trapping seasons and bag limits.
Do we have any public comments related to this proclamation? Do we have any committee members?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Chris here. I have an amendment. I think we've heard a lot about this in the past, and I'd like to amend this proclamation for a year-round raccoon hunting season on private land. I'm going to have to ask for a second.
So we have a motion for an amendment. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If we have no comments or discussion related towards this amendment, all in favor on the committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an amendment on the proposal. Do we have any other comments or discussion related to the proclamation? Hearing none, I'll open for a motion to move the proclamation forward.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Moving on to our final proclamation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. The last one here will be Proclamation 2610. This is the Wildlife Management Area, Refuge, and Public Hunting Area Seasons and Bag Limits. We'll start with a couple recommended changes to the statewide WMA regulations and then go through each region with the recommended individual WMA changes. I'm just going to give a preview of all the public input up front. We had 408 comments, split kind of evenly between the statewide WMA comments and then folks that commented on our individual proposals. And then lastly, we allowed the opportunity for respondents to give us general WMA thoughts or thoughts on a WMA where we weren't recommending change. Overall, these comments varied. They often go into stuff outside of the actual regulatory side of managing WMAs, like habitat conditions. And then there's, of course, varying opinions on antler point restrictions, what management goals are on individual WMAs. Some folks want more hunting opportunities. Some want more quotas and less opportunity to target, older age structure bucks. And so we see a pretty wide, diverse comments on these WMA changes. So starting with the statewide WMA regulations, we're tasked by rule to biannually review the duck blind tiers and sites. The agency is not recommending any changes. So the number of tier 1, tier 2, and quota hunts will remain the same, and those locations will remain the same. We do have 2 recommended changes to the statewide regulations. The first is to clarify that dove hunters do not need hunter orange and pink. Of course, we know dove hunters aren't doing this already. This was an oversight, so we just need to add this clarification so no one's outside of our regulations if they're a dove hunter not wearing orange, which of course is all dove hunters. And then secondly, and this is really to align with some of those trapping changes that we made in manner and means, is to clarify that baiting and lures for trapping are legal, even on the WMAs. Now, this has to be done within a legal trapping device. So someone can't put a bait pile out and say, oh, I'm trapping. There are specifications that it has to be within a legal trapping device. Moving forward to Region 1, we've got a couple small changes. The first at Big Sandy, Gin Creek, and Barkley is really to expand opportunity and make sure hunters know that they can hunt outside of those sub-impoundments where the water is on days when the late duck season is closed. At Buffalo Ridge Unit 1, this is where we hold the special youth and becoming an outdoors women's hunts. We're going to move that youth deer hunt to the weekend before the October statewide youth season. And this is really just to give those juveniles another opportunity to potentially hunt the following weekend on a youth hunt. And then lastly, we need to proclaim, we essentially need to move the Hatchie River WMA hunting seasons into the WMA proclamation. Back in January, you all proclaimed Hatchie River WMA as a WMA and established its hunting season. This is really procedural, moving those hunting seasons into the WMA proclamation. We've got 1 change recommended for Region 2, and that is to extend the quail and rabbit dog training season until the last day of February at Bar Camp Barrens, and also extend the rabbit hunting season to the last day of February. So this will functionally just align it with the statewide seasons and provide more opportunity there for those user groups. Region 3's got a number of changes now. A lot of these are just, small, aligning with complexity, reducing complexity and aligning things. But at the end, we're restructuring a hunt for a specific purpose. So first, Bridgestone, Firestone WMA, we're just going to align one of the units with the rest of Bridgestone WMA so that they have the same antlerless deer limits. At Catoosa Ridge Refuge, this is that special property that we acquired a number of years ago. Only small game hunting has been allowed to this point, but we would like to add some big game opportunity. The first would be 3 quota deer hunts with antler point restrictions. So this is really designed to target older age class bucks. And similarly, we'll add a women's R3 hunt after those 3 quota hunts. And this is going to be beyond becoming an outdoors women hunt. So it's women that have gone through the bow program and now have an opportunity for kind of a special hunt targeting those older age class bucks. And then in the spring, we'll add 2 quota turkey hunts. Fall Creek Falls, this is a partner request. This is managed by the state park. We'd like to add 22 additional quota permits and increase the deer bag limit from 2 to 3. UTWMA, this is where we're going to restructure the hunts quite a bit. So UTWMA is second to President's Island in the amount of preference points it takes to draw. So it's a highly desirable hunt. They've got some really good bucks, and the agency and the division want to lean into that and kind of create another really high opportunity similar to President's Island. So we're going to increase the duration of those quota hunts, but at the same time reduce the number of permits so there's a little less crowding, and remove one of those quota hunts. So the total days will stay the same, but each individual hunt's going to be a little longer. Remove the earn a buck requirement so that individuals don't have to take a doe first if they have a really high quality buck. And then with that, also increase the antler point restrictions to protect some of those younger bucks that they found through their data were being harvested with their existing antler point restrictions. Lastly, back in January, the Fisheries Proclamation added a bunch of additional opportunity on some Region 3 WMAs. We need to amend the WMA Proclamation and remove area closures for fishing to align with those changes that were made back in January. So commissioners, functionally here, we're just adding more opportunity for anglers to get on our WMAs and fish. Rounding it out with Region 4, we've got a number of changes here as well. Kiker Bottom's Refuge. We need to clarify, there's some confusion. We need to clarify that hunting is archery only until the November 15th refuge closure. Hunters can take advantage of that muzzleloader season, but using archery equipment. At Cove Creek and North Cumberland WMAs, we're going to kind of reduce the complexity there. So we are reducing the antlerless bag limit, but we're allowing that harvest to occur at any time. Whereas previously you had 1 week periods where you could take antlerless deer. So this is really, it's reducing the bag limit, but adding more opportunity for guys to get out there and taking our antlerless deer. And then secondarily, we're doing the same thing with the antlered bag limit and allowing those antlered deer bucks to be taken anytime during the statewide season on those WMAs. Odie Mills Refuge is another kind of highly managed special property with limited quotas where we, are trying to increase the buck age structure on the property. It adjoins almost 200,000 acres of North Cumberland WMA. So they really, even during the young sportsman hunt, we'd like to protect those younger bucks and provide an opportunity for young sportsmen that want to target older bucks to have this opportunity, knowing next door there's a lot of public land where if hunters, just want any opportunity, they can go there. So what we're going to do is clarify that antler point restrictions do apply to the young sportsman hunt at Odie Mills Refuge. And then lastly, we've got a couple of changes to deer and turkey seasons at Chuck Swan WMA. The first is to add antlerless deer as legal to take. So the archery quota bag limit will go from 1 antlered deer to 1 deer either sex. So if a hunter doesn't have an opportunity to buck, they can take a doe. Similarly, we'll add bears as legal to take during that archery quota hunt as well. And then lastly, there's been a pretty large decline in the turkey population on Chuck Swan. So we're proposing to reduce the turkey quota permits from 150 to 25, also reduce the number of hunts and prohibit jake harvests. And this is primarily designed to really ensure that this hunt is still high quality and kind of match up the quota opportunity that's out there with the current population of turkeys on that WMA so that those hunters can still have a high quality experience. With that, commissioners, the agency recommends passage of Proclamation 2610, wildlife management areas, public hunting areas, and refuges limits, hunting areas and refuges.
Do we have any public comments related to this, Mr. Walker?
Walker Maryville, I just have a question. I like it, I think. So you're telling me there is no longer 1 week only to shoot a doe. I can shoot a doe or a buck anytime during open season.
Yes, sir. You're North Cumberland?
Yes.
In Cove Creek?
North Cumberland.
Yes, sir. So the way it'll be written is that the antlerless bag limit during archery is 1. So you can take 1 doe during archery. And the antlerless bag limit during muzzleloader and gun combined is 1. Anytime from the start of muzzleloader to the end of gun season, you can take 1 antlerless deer.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment while Mr. Walker's up there?
Yes, sir, please.
Mr. Walker, I've been an adamant supporter of your passion for flintlock and for the type of hunting that you and the gentleman spoke about for a rendezvous and whatever. The agency leadership has worked tirelessly to make that happen, to provide 2 parks where you could hunt where that's never been open before. And our discussion, I think you recall, with me and with Councilor Grimes, is that we came to some MOUs or understanding how that would be accomplished. I do take offense at your comment that the commission has refused to address your presentation or your request to remove orange. Now, with that being said, TCA code says that orange is required for any hunting with a firearm. And even though flintlocks and antique weapons, as you would describe them today, doesn't require an FFL requirement, they still are a firearm. And so we've had this discussion. If your representative wants to put forth a motion to remove that and make it amend TCA code for that allowance, then I would recommend that you go to him and try to get that done. But the agency is bound by TCA code when it comes to firearms. And so the commission has addressed that on a number of occasions. And we are hearing what you're requesting, but we are not able to act because of TCA code, is my understanding. So with that being said, hey, let's work hard to make Rendezvous or whatever on Frozen Head a success and get the parks and tourism behind it. And we'll do everything that we can, even coming, to help support that. And with that said, I appreciate your passion, but now I want you to understand that the commission hasn't refused to hear your request. We just not be able to make a decision on that from a commission standpoint.
May I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I told you that I appreciated and that I was in favor of the Frozen Head. And Mr. Benedict has called me 2 or 3 days ago, and we've had a discussion over the phone about it. It has been amended from what you and I and Tori talked about at the last meeting, and I would like more discussions with him about that. But I strongly feel that you are wrong in what the law says, and I just want an opportunity to show you what I feel like the law says. And I don't feel that I'm being given that opportunity. That's all I'm asking for, is an opportunity to show you what I have. Thank you.
Mr. Walker, I appreciate your passion, and I'm a strong defender of the rights of all citizens of this country. And you're correct, it is a republic and not a democracy. You have the right to submit a written explanation of how you disagree with the way that we have been interpreting state law. We are not preventing you from doing that.
Okay.
And I would highly suggest that you do that and you send it, and you can copy our counsel in that. So we are not denying you any right in that matter. I would also like to open it up to the full commission, since you're here, and ask if anyone on the commission has an appetite towards entertaining a special Flintlock only statewide season for Mr. Walker. Commissioners?
I will address that. Yes, I have an appetite for it, and, I'd like to see it pursued and discussed, and I think with the agency, I don't think they're resisting. I think they're just looking for an opportunity to see if we can make that happen. So with that said, I'm in favor of it.
Well, I was in favor of when you first proposed it at Buffalo Ridge last year because of what was going on in Pennsylvania. But am I correct in that they can hunt with flintlocks? Like, the season is here. It's just not called flintlock. You can do it in muzzleloading season. I just suggested you create your own little show or whatever you want to call it, and call it a flintlock hunt somewhere, and do it during muzzleloading season. Create your own little agency or foundation or something, and just do it. But from what I understand, it comes down to you just don't want to wear orange, and there's nothing we can do about that right now.
So in closing, I would say that you have the right to use a flintlock anytime a muzzleloader or gun season is open, which is several weeks in this state, depending on the region, and refer to the hunting guide. And we have not prohibited you from using a flintlock during those seasons. I believe that you need to understand that any special season adds an additional cost and burden on this agency. And we have given you a pathway to prove that you have the support for that at these state parks. So if you want to keep coming to the meetings and speak your mind, I'm happy to hear that. But I don't appreciate the word shameful when used against this body of men and women that sacrifice their time and receive no pay for what they do. So do you understand what I'm telling you? That we've given you an opportunity and it doesn't seem to have satisfied you?
I don't know that did I use the word shameful? I apologize. If that came out of my mouth, I did not mean shameful. I don't remember that. Sorry. Now, the only thing I feel like the federal and state law is on my side. I want an opportunity to present what I have to say. Yes, I agree with you. I can use my flintlock from muzzleloader season to the end of gun season. I can use it right now in turkey season, and I don't have to wear hunter orange. I can have my rendezvous now. I just can't shoot a deer with no hunter orange. But I feel like federal and state law gives me the right to do that. But you all have to give me the season to make it legal. And that's all I'm asking is for, what was it, 17 days season during archery or in December when there is no season with no hunter orange required, like state and federal law has given me the opportunity to do. Please give me that opportunity. You say if I need to submit it in writing, I will submit it in writing. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask for clarification? Seems where I'm late to the dance. You guys just gave a week of muzzleloader season to cartridge rifle shooters. They can shoot a lot farther than we can. So is there no way we can accommodate us too at a certain place where it can be only for primitives? If I go to a wildlife management area and I'm going to shoot 60 yards, I can see guys that can shoot 300 from where my spot is. And that's going to severely limit me. That's what I was trying to say before. And there should be some accommodation for people that want to do it the old-timey way, like us, you know. And the other thing is, we have to wear orange, but does that allow us to wear the pink too, if we choose to? Is that, we can do either?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, some might not want to, but at least it's clarified. Because I know deer can see orange. They don't see it as a color orange, but maybe they don't see pink. That may help us a bit. I don't know. I have to work something out here, you know. Or go strictly on private property, which not everybody that shoots flintlocks has the ability to do. You know what I mean? And I appreciate your time.
Any other public comments?
Trey Walker, Maryville. I'm Fred's son. You all may recognize me from a couple years ago when the falconry stuff was going on. And then we also talked about North Cumberland, the alcohol, stuff like that. So I don't really have a comment on one thing specifically, but just sitting in here and being in these meetings the past 4 years now, not to every single one of them like my dad has been to in the last year and a half. But, you know, we talk about we got to make public comment, have to make public comment to be heard, public comment. And then I'm not pointing fingers at all, but sitting in this room today, there's a strong, or there was a strong sense of, well, we need public comment, but don't necessarily listen to it because it isn't the whole picture, but it is an important picture in the pyramid that is the decision-making of TWRA with the commission, with the public. And so that is something that when I was sitting in that chair and I heard, don't really, and I'm not going to get the words proper here, but what I heard was, yes, these people made public comment, but don't listen to the public comment because it might have been swayed on social media because it's one group that feels something at a certain time of year. You know, turkey hunting's big, deer hunting's big, all this stuff is big. But the reason, you know, I look around this room and there's a lot of people that live in the state of Tennessee and not a lot of them are here. And then I look at the numbers of public comment. I'm like, there's a lot of people that live in the state of Tennessee, but not a lot of people make public comment, which is really unfortunate. And I'm not going to blame it on people saying like, don't listen to public comment. But when people hear that, you're probably getting what I think you might want. And this is just me trying to juggle it all in my head is like, do you really want public comment or do you just have to have it to figure this stuff out? Because I think it's important to show up. So the people that are making public comment, they're not taking it to the next step and they're not here. I think the people that are here are also given of their time. They're not getting paid to be here. And they're driving across the state to all these meetings so that their voice can be heard. I think there's value in that. So that's really the last thing I'm going to say is that I do agree with my dad. I have looked at the law that he's talking about, and I'm here to support him as his son. And if I'm going to ask the question, I was told last couple years ago that you're not allowed to ask questions up here, but you don't have to answer. I'm just going to ask you. If I got Ryan Callahan from Meat Eater to come to one of these commission meetings and tell you all that the reasons why, or anybody from Meat Eater for that fact, why flintlocks are cool now, would you be willing to listen to somebody from Steve Rinella's Meat Eater at this commission? Because I would do everything in my power. I know that Ryan Callahan is a big advocate for flintlocks, and I know that one of Steve's right-hand men is from Pennsylvania, and they do not require hunter's orange, and it's a flintlock season specific after Christmas.
Chairman, may I speak to that a little bit? I apologize if I gave the indication that we don't listen to public comment. We do, but we get thousands of comments every year. And I think we demonstrated with some of that data that we hear from different individuals every year and people that are more motivated for change. Your father, he wants change. He's here every single meeting. He is motivated, right? The guys who are happy with it, they're not showing up. We see the same thing in our public comment. And if we were to live and die by public comment, it's going to be the seesaw, right? Baiting, no baiting, baiting, no baiting. Flintlock, no flintlock, flintlock, no flintlock, whatever it is. So we're looking at trends through time, balancing science with stakeholders. And I appreciate you guys coming. We do value public input. We get a lot of it from diverse opinions, and we do our best to balance all of that. It's very difficult, as you can imagine. I just wanted to clarify that.
I understood exactly what you meant because same thing would be true of Fred. If Fred got what he wanted, he probably wouldn't show up to any meeting after that. It made complete sense.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one more comment? And then maybe we can end all of this discussion. You mentioned late to the dance. We've had that discussion with Mr. Walker. Pennsylvania's been doing this for a long time. Tennessee, thanks to Mr. Fred, has just now seriously considered how that we can make that happen, since we're the home of David Crockett and we're the home of the wild frontier, if you will. And so it's an opportunity for us to capitalize on that. But, you know, we can't just get it done overnight. And so I've encouraged him to make a success of Frozen Head and build some of the success into that. Go to your legislator, get that done as far as removing orange or pink, whatever. And we're working all together to help make this happen. Parks and tourism, you know, and I mentioned our leadership. You know, we've gone out of the way to try to accommodate and give you an opportunity. And so, you know, we're working with you to make it successful so we can build on that and make some of these changes. But at this point, we're not going to run that wagon out of control down the hill until that we can see that there's a appetite for all of this from a large segment of our hunting population. So with that said, I'm done. Thank you.
A reminder to the committee that we've got Proclamation 2610 in front of us, brought with the staff agency recommendations. Any questions or clarifications from the committee related to the proclamation? Anybody from the full commission? Hearing none, I will move the agency's recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Chairman, that concludes the business of the Wildlife Committee.
Thank you, Chairman McCarty. Commissioner Moody.
I just want to commend Commissioner McCarty on that grueling morning that we've had. Thank you for your persistence in seeing us through it.
I will now recognize Commissioner Steve Johnson, Budget Committee Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You want to swap? Here. We've got Budget Chief Ken Tarkington here, and I know he's got that big book, but he's going to be brief.
Just think you had to wait this whole time just to hear me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first slide, or next slide, we have is I'm reporting on or through the month of February of 2026. The boating registration income through February is approximately $40,000 less than what was projected, and the expense to budget is about 39% of the total allotment for the year. The next slide, which is the Wildlife Fund, the license income is down $477,000 against what was projected, and what you're seeing is basically the result of the freeze, the ice storm, and so forth that pretty well crippled most of at least Middle Tennessee and all throughout the state. We will see some of that come up into the month of March. On the expense side, we're approximately 47% of the total allotment for the year. And then the next slide details the Wetlands Acquisition Fund, which has a little over $15,100,000 balance in it. The last slide is a representation of our Treasury Fund balances and to include our lifetime and watchable account. As you notice, the SPIF rate for the idle excess funds is currently at 3.65. Are there any questions or comments?
From the Budget Committee, before you ask any question, I want to recognize the Budget Committee. We got our hands full. Let's go around. You heard Director Maxedon's comments. You've also heard the saying, can't get blood out of a turnip, but we're going to have to find a way. Vice Chairman Devaney here on the end, Commissioner Haynes Torbett, Commissioner Butt, Commissioner Saltzman, and Commissioner McCarty. Any questions for Budget Chief Tarkington? Having here none, how about from the commission?
Thank you.
I believe that wraps it up. Thank you so much, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioners, I believe that concludes our agenda for today. Before I ask for any final public comments, any commissioners have any comments or thoughts? All right, any members of the public that would like to speak? Please come forward. Just say your name and your location, and we got this timer, but we don't always go by it, so.
No pressure, huh? Good afternoon. I'm Bill Stanley. I'm the chairman of the board of Campbell Outdoor Recreation Association, and I am going to be all over the map. But I want to start in thanking you, Commissioner Moody, for mentioning Glenn Massengill at the last meeting. He was a lifelong friend, one of the founders of CORA, and he was a giant in conservation in Campbell County. And you're mentioning him. I actually choked up when I was watching the video. That said, at our last meeting, John Mike and Joe Elkins and Keith Thomas talked about the recommendation to support the elk hunt by the possible use of drones for tracking wounded elk. They are a valuable resource that we really don't want to waste. And the hunting opportunities are lifetime opportunities for hunters in the state. If you looked at the numbers, the number of applications was like 17,000, if I recall, maybe off on that, for 19 permits. So the value of being able to track those, we think as CORA that is a great recommendation and start to help lower the number of injured elk that are not harvested. So we appreciate the agency's efforts in that. And hope you follow up on that recommendation because we think it's a great start. In our lifelong effort on North Cumberland Wildlife Management OHV fees, we continue that journey with you. Let us know what we can do to help to get that resolved. The riders are an important part of our community. It's a huge business draw, but the mountain cannot speak for itself. And the quality of that experience is dependent on the maintenance and upkeep of the trails and what we can do to help resolve that and get that funding to them. Let us know how we can help on that. You've had our recommendation from last year. I think the bulk of that is being addressed. So let us know what we can do to help. And finally, the last weekend of April, CORA and the Wild Turkey Federation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, hold a wounded warrior hunt up at the Lewis Farm. Would invite all of you to come if you would like. I know that Director Maxedon has donated his time to guide several times. Unfortunately, I don't believe he can do it this year, but we need guides. We have about 29 wounded warriors, and I will tell you, everyone that works on the event gets more out of it than the hunters. So we invite you to that. And I have no comments beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Staley. Can someone please make a motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye.